Confession time. Here's my hobby bench. Yuck. That's why I tend to do things inside with my wife. And I got all kinds of junk sitting up here. Rockets, old airplanes, flying models, all kinds of things in here that are lots of junk. But anyway, it's so much fun. But this is the beginning of the Me-410 primer video. And just to show you, all I do is I just use a cheap automotive primer that I can find. A bottle of this, at least currently, this 2024, is like $9 or something, maybe less. Because if you buy something like this, it's actually made for model priming, and they're $1 million, very expensive. But this is fine, and this coat's just great, and it leaves everything gray, and that's the first step. And so the next picture will just be the Me-410 gray, and we'll show you start sanding and priming, or well, filling and sanding and priming. All right, so here we are. There it is, all sprayed, and you can see it's all gray, and that color does help you pick out some of the problems. It colors pretty well. There's a couple places where the printing comes through, but that's all right. And I'm just showing you the basic overall look, because there's places that really need help. Oh, and I also found there's a little fillet I forgot to add, and it looks great. It cleans up that fin to fuselage joint really well. So I put that on. I forgot it was even going on there. But all these things, like those lines, those are probably real panel lines, but they at least need to be knocked back. And in some cases, they're bumpy. And so, like this piece actually is going to be a piece I'm going to put a strip over it, because in the real airplane there is this metal strip. But things like that and that and that all need to be at least lessened, and then I can come back and rescribe. Things like this that are cut in the paper to make the correct fold need to be fixed, because they just look, to me anyway, they just look bad. So I'm going to play with those. There's holes here that need to be filled with actual paper or wood and then be puttied over. But any place you see a line like there, that'll be filled, and then I can rescribe it later and make it look a little more delicate. So anyway, the overall starved look on the wings, that's because I don't know what I'm doing. I need to fill that with like foam or something, and try that the next time I build a World War II fighter of some kind. Anyway, I begin by taking a little bit of, I don't know, 100, 110 grit sandpaper, and just very carefully run that over the seams. And all you can do is keep doing this, and it's not like plastic, in that it'll start to sort of flake, which is okay. Don't panic. That'll fall apart, but as we keep sanding and priming and filling, that'll all go away. And all we're trying to do is get rid of these little high spots and fill the little cracks that are going to be there. But you can see you don't have to be super. I mean, you're careful. I'm putting like medium pressure on the model, but you want the sandpaper to bite. And yes, it's paper, so you have to be a little more delicate than you'd be with plastic. With plastic, you can just hammer away. With this, you got to be a little more careful, but you don't need to be. You're not building a Fabergé egg or anything here, but they do sort of look kind of worse before they get better. So don't worry about that. And less is more. If you're sanding and you think, okay, that's enough, stop. Because the next steps we're going to be filling with putty and going over, letting that dry, and going over it again with sandpaper, and then priming it, and doing all this many, many times. Places like this on the underneath, where those are seams that were made there in the paper in order to make those compound curves. And so those, to me, have to go. I just think they look lame. People who are really good at building paper models, those things are almost invisible, and they're part of what makes it a paper model, and people, leave them there. I'm not that good, so my stuff stands out and just looks like you did a terrible job. So that's why I end up filling these. But as we do this, it seems boring, but I just wanted to show you what it takes to do this very simply. You just sort of sand them back and forth. I do little circular motions. I go back and forth, and I'm just trying to cut back on the protuberances there. And You can use a straight edge, something like sometimes I put the sandpaper onto a wooden block or something to make it even. I'll have to do that in a couple of places. We'll see later, because this, especially underneath the nose, this is about the worst place on the whole airplane. This really needs help down here. That's why I'm starting with this to show you. If I show you this process, then the rest would be basically the same. But I'm just kind of inspecting it, seeing how it looks and feels. Um, and I'm looking for, okay, now where do I want to put my actual putty? What do I want to do? It needs a little more sanding, so I'm speeding this up so you don't die from boredom. But I'm just going through and doing the same thing. Very carefully sanding in little circular motions, back and forth, perpendicular, anything to make it so that it's gonna lessen those humps. And again, the first time you do it, it's not going to be as good. Now, this isn't an advertisement for Tamiya Putty. Any kind of filler will work. This is what I happen to use on my plastic models a lot. So, but this is, answering questions of how you do this with paper models. You treat it like a plastic model. I just put a blob down there, more than you need, and then I use my Mark 1 finger and sort of smear it in a way that it's almost scooped, and it starts to fill the gap, but also the in between areas. Because what you're going to do is sand these things and feather them out so that they look good. So like this, I kind of see how it's folded and kind of smooth all the way around that area. And the less is more. So don't worry if you do this and you get a gouge or you get something that doesn't look quite right. Don't panic about that, because um, when we do this many more times, it'll all come together. So this one, watch how I smear it down, and it kind of looks pretty good, but it still has to be ferreted into everything else. Plus, there's going to be low spots and high spots. This underneath part is a bear, just because these areas do need something, because the paper leaves a big ridge in places, and this is the part where you have those gaps for the to make the compound curve. So those need to be covered. And so again, I just add the putty directly to this, and the putty is very sandable, so you don't have to worry about it being difficult or harming the paper. But see how I kind of roll it over with my finger and kind of press down hard to sort of squash the putty into places. And there I'm ferrying it back a little bit um, to make it look a little better. But you can see it does not look presentable yet at all. When there's a little place there that I just wanted to smooth out, and see if you smooth it out like that with a finger or another implement and kind of ferret already. Now this part's horrible. It's dented. And so I had to put a fair amount of putty in here. I don't know if this is going to work. But this, I can't use a lot of pressure. I take a straight edge of some kind, in this case an old sanding stick, and I just very carefully kind of lightly roll it over. Because I'm actually filling not a gap, I'm filling like a cavern in there. And so I'll see how that goes. We'll see in the next video if that worked or not. But again, beauty in this first pass is not important. We're going to do lots of sanding, light sanding, let the sandpaper do its job. I'm just trying to very carefully fill that and level that area. It's kind of like doing, putting up walls in your house. Same thing, wallboard. You've got to fill the nail marks, and you fill it by putting this kind of putty on there. In fact, that spackling might even work. I never thought of that. That'd be a much cheaper alternative than this stuff. Anyway, but there's places where I need a little extra, and I will do that and ferret. And again, this is the reason I'm showing this to you. This is the worst it's going to get. This is the first pass, and it looks homely right now, but don't panic, because it will look better soon enough. Anyway, that is step 1.